Your home for Kings talk and so much more.
Live and local.
Allen Stiles on Sactown Sports.
12 o'clock on the dot. Kings Roundtable. It's just a Kings partnership right now.
Temporarily.
Kings date night with Brenden Nunes. Chris Watkins will be joining us. So we're not going to talk about Tyrese Haliburton and the Pacers until he ain't getting out of this.
Yeah, he will be entertaining. And I think that he shares, it's not just Chris. I think Chris shares the opinion of a lot of Kings fans that, it's just a little tough to watch Tyrese.
Sure.
And Chris doesn't love all the antics.
Like I
Same
said,
with Steph.
we're saving it. We are saving it for when Chris arrives. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. I'm kind of on the other end of that, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy, rooting for guys that we got to spend a little bit of time around and that were former Kings. So it was fun. They got him doing the choke in the background right here.
Yeah.
And what a moment.
I'm good with you now, but if De'Aaron Fox starts balling out next season, I think we're going to have some problems.
I was wondering, I think that I might like De'Aaron a little even more than Tyrese, I would say, just more time around him. But I'm curious, because not to just out Chris a bunch over and over on his side, but I think that they have him and some other people I've talked to have less feelings about De'Aaron and more about Tyrese.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. So we will table that for a second. By the way, is that a green?
Yeah. There's like a St. Patrick's Day theme that they did. I don't know. I know that it doesn't go with the colors. I don't really wear my baseball hats just to rep some teams for the most part.
No, I hear you.
I just style for the most part. I don't love the shape of it. I'm not a huge fan.
I've just never been on, you go into lids and they got blue Giants hat.
Yeah. I have a green Giants hat on for the audio.
Yes.
I also have a maroon A's hat. I think they look cool.
I can't stand for that. I'm actually really torn, by the way, and I don't want to miss the date, but the Jackie Robinson Kobe's are coming out.
I don't know if I've seen these.
So it's the same Kobe's that were the Grinches. I forget the name of them.
Okay, yeah.
But they're blue, and I believe they have a 24 on them. And I'm torn because obviously I cannot stand the Dodgers, but but yeah.
Yeah.
Here they are.
I could see that.
Here they are right here. The Kobe's. I don't know if it's connected to Jackie.
The Kobe sixes.
The Kobe sixes.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any connection to Jackie, but they're Dodger blue.
They're a little too Dodger.
They're very
too Dodger.
No, you can wear it.
Like I just said, I don't really care about the team hat I'm wearing, but I do have a line where I will not wear a Dodgers hat.
So they have 8 on one side, I think 24 on the other. And
they're Kobe / oh, well, I guess they are Kobe's. Fair enough.
They're Kobe's.
Yeah.
They're Kobe's. They come out May 30th, 8 days. So I'm
debating it.
I'm torn on it.
Yeah.
But
then just get a blue Giants hat to go with it.
See, that's not that's disgusting. Yeah. That is, I don't mix and mingle like that.
Fair enough.
That's not what we're doing. What we are doing, we're talking with Brenden Nunes about everything that we're seeing in the NBA playoffs. Just real quick before we get to King centric here, tougher watch for you, and who's worse at foul baiting, Shea or Jalen?
I tend to think Jalen is a little bit worse.
Now we're back on the right.
Hitting the head backwards.
And the hair with
the hair probably does add to the effect for sure. But it's the, and don't get me wrong, like they're getting fouled out there.
Right.
But especially there was one play with
They're not always getting
Jalen.
fouled.
Not always.
Did you see the one? Are you talking about when he shot the 3 and then tried to bump his butt over?
There was a play towards the end where I was like, he probably got fouled about 3 times, but they're not going to call that at the end of a close game in the playoffs. But every time that he gets bumped, it's throwing his head back. But I will say, like, I don't really care about the foul baiting all that much. I think that it's in the game, and all the best guards, not even just guards, all the best players in the league do it to an extent. Jokic does it out there. I don't think you can name who's like the ethical baller, I guess, that doesn't do that.
Cade Cunningham.
But is that because he's a little bit younger and he's going to learn to get better at it?
Cade Cunningham. I mean, there's levels, right?
There is,
because
for sure.
For me, Steph, he'll do the pump fake on the 3, but he does not do it on drive. Driving to the basket, he doesn't do it. But
fair.
he does do it on drives.
Yeah.
So there's Harden levels.
There are definitely extents.
Yes.
But I don't know. To me, I definitely think that it's unfortunately kind of a skill that gets rewarded. You know, I think that, for example, like wouldn't De'Aaron, I feel like, is somebody that we saw get better at that throughout his career. Mm-hmm. And some people would say even he's maybe not somebody that does it, not to the extent of some of these other guys we're talking about. But I think that if you aren't, you know, drawing the referee's attention to a foul is a different story than just straight flopping. And that can be taken out the game by the officials actually enforcing
but what about
flopping rule.
what about hunting fouls?
I think you only do that against guys that you know are going to foul you, and that's the defender's problem. For the most part. I mean, I'm in the minority.
I'm trying to find this clip, man. I mean, Jalen, it was egregious.
If it is an over-the-top flop, then I think we just need to have the officials actually call it.
Yeah.
How often are they actually calling a flopping penalty? And then I bet it's an even smaller, like very minuscule percentage of those are on the offensive player rather than the defensive player. Call some of these offensive flops and then get rid of the egregious ones. But unfortunately, it's kind of part of the game.
Well, and they were supposed to.
Yeah,
they were supposed to. I mean, this was years ago, and they never did. Years ago and you know, and now people are finding a way to complain about the game, and I get it. You know, a lot of it is ridiculous. You know, the pump fake and jumping in. How are they still calling that specifically? The driving to the basket gets dicey because is that just the playoffs or are those fouls? The pump fake and jumping in, and like I said, Steph will do it. I thought that was supposed to be a clear cut. That one's cooked, and somehow it's not cooked.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a fine line, I guess. Like, you know, everybody gets to argue, no, that's my natural shooting motion. I'm like, dude, we've seen you shoot plenty of times. That is far from natural. But, you know, I guess it's a fine line. And I think the only way this changes is if the NBA actually enforces the flopping that they said they were going to a few years ago and maybe did for like 2 months and then just kind of went away from it. How many flopping penalties? You've been to a lot of games.
Yeah.
How many flopping penalties have you seen in person?
Funny enough, I've essentially seen 2, and it's because these officials, they don't have the you-know-what to call it on stars. I've seen 2 called, one on Keon, one on Moses Moody.
Wow. Yeah.
No stars.
Not on stars.
No stars.
And if anybody should get more of the flopping penalties, the large percentage probably should go towards these star players that are trying to bait fouls.
They don't want to do it. They're too scared.
They don't.
They're too scared because, and it always kind of tripped me out because obviously you know who these people are. But when you'll hear the refs before they turn the mic on, they'll be like, it's a foul on Braun. Or, you know, there's a foul on Steph. And I guess, you know, because you're in high school or whatever, it's a foul on 32. It's like, these are the biggest stars in the world. So you're not going to ref them the same as the dude that they actually don't know your name who just got drafted or whatever the case is.
100%. That's why, you know, Jay Crowder is going to go bring Devin Carter to the middle of the floor before games and be like, hey, these are the officials' names. Yeah. Say hi, shake their hands, get to know them. Because unfortunately, it does you favors.
It does you favors. And Chris Watkins is in the building. We will hear from Chris on the other side. And it's time to get into this Tyrese Haliburton conversation.
Yes, sir.
Sactown Sports. It is time. Now it's a party. Chris Watkins in the building. Brenden Nunes as well. Anthony filling in for Kyle Ledbetter for the rest of the week. Kyle Ledbetter out there in hot Atlanta enjoying himself. Chris, thank you for joining us. And we wanted to hold off because we wanted to wait for you to have this. No, we really did. We really did. Let's just get right on into it.
Okay.
The floor is yours. Tyrese Haliburton.
People do that.
Tyrese Haliburton.
Yes, sir.
Shoots the shot. Does the Reggie Miller. Ends up being a 2. Yeah. Then you're thinking, this could be really embarrassing if they lose. And then they don't. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts?
I very much don't like it that no one is mentioning Aaron Nesmith going 8 of 9 from
true.
3
Yeah.
because there is no Tyrese Haliburton anything without Aaron Nesmith absolutely going like superstar planet supernova from 3. Like that was like, to me, that is like the incredible moment of that game. Like Tyrese's shot was pretty insane. Like, I mean, obviously it goes in. It's a crazy moment in Madison Square Garden, but to me, like Aaron Nesmith saved the day there, and Tyrese is going to get all the headlines, and that's great, and it's not fun. But to me, like that is the Knicks obviously not executing down the stretch, but to me, that's all on Aaron Nesmith going crazy, and Tyrese gets the moment, which I'm sure he is very, very glad to take and run with.
30.
So there you go.
30 points. Can you elaborate on 30 points for the night? 20 in the fourth quarter for Aaron Nesmith.
All-time heater.
Yeah.
8 3
like how many of those were like in the last 3 minutes?
Right.
It was like 6 of them, it felt like, in the last 3 minutes.
8 3-pointers, 6 in the fourth quarter.
Oh, there you go.
This is from the Pacers. Since 1996, 1997, teams that have trailed by 7 or more in the final 50 seconds of the fourth quarter or OT in the playoffs are 4 and 1,702.
So it's happened before.
We have 3 of those wins, and they're all this year.
That is insane.
Whoa.
I'm telling you,
That's
they are
crazy.
a miracle team right now. I don't know that means
that's
that
all from the
they're
Pacers,
gonna keep
you're
going.
saying? Or
That's from the Pacers.
Okay, yeah. I mean, well, see, you read that as a team of destiny. I read that as your luck's going to run out at some point, and you've probably gotten further than what you should have gotten.
Yeah, I think
That's
both
destiny.
both could be true. Like, this may be your end point of your miracle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For sure. I don't think miracle season means like, oh, you're going to go on. It's not a shoo-in that they're going to beat the Knicks. It's still very, very much a series. And OKC, I think, is the most dominant team all season long, and they're still out there.
Yeah, they have runner-up written all over to me because they're not beating. I cannot see them beating. Maybe I'd give them a chance against the Timberwolves because I just don't really know what Timberwolves team is going to show up. They're so Anthony Edwards dependent, and I don't really know what Julius Randle is. Period. Nas Reed, by the way, he's losing himself a lot of money. I just wanted to say that
he already made it, so that's fine.
Well,
I'm sure he's definitely up for another one in a couple of years.
He has a player option. Nas Reed does.
Really? Well, he'll sign into that.
It was like 13 mil, and a lot of people thought, oh, he's about to get 25 mil. He's been awful.
Yeah.
He's been awful. So I don't know what's going to happen in the West. It wouldn't surprise me if the Pacers lose in the finals because that's just what small market teams do. They lose in the finals unless you have the MVP in Shea. But as far as Tyrese Haliburton is concerned, there was some back and forth that I got into with some Kings fans. How much of this, and this is how I want to ask this, Chris.
Okay.
How much of this, just as far as how Kings feel and how you view Tyrese, I've talked to Jason Ross, Tyrese versus De'Aaron Fox.
Mm-hmm.
How much does the Tyrese Haliburton still sting? And within that sting, how much of this is about the front office versus who is actually better than who? On top of that, what was done after the trade was made? It's a loaded question, but basically everybody's mad about the Tyrese Haliburton thing. Are you mad because you traded Tyrese Haliburton and you think he's better than De'Aaron Fox? Are you mad that you think that they could have played together? Are you mad because Domantas Sabonis is not it? Are you mad because they did not help Domantas Sabonis?
Can I just say yes?
Yes. Are you mad that they did not? You don't feel like they've helped Domantas Sabonis? Because I was in the camp of the Kings did not do enough to help De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis post-trade.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to sit here and say that Tyrese Haliburton isn't elevating his team. Now, because last night I'm getting into it, people running around like Tyrese Haliburton's playing with the 2017 Warriors. He's elevating them.
Yeah, no, for sure. My thought for sure on that specific front is that, it's just ridiculous to say, if the trade never happens, right? Like, Domantas Sabonis is not leading the Pacers to the Eastern Conference Finals this year. I'm sorry. I do not see a world in which that's happening. To answer your initial question, I don't really know how else to answer it except for from my perspective on things. And it might be more of a psychoanalysis of Kings fans, but I think it has more to do less with the specifics of everything and more of just this organization needs wins, obviously on the court, but also off the court. And I think it's more of if you're viewing the Kings as like a stock is kind of how I think of it, is like that decision going well for the Kings would have been good for them in the overall stock of the organization. It would have been good for the Kings to get a win in that trade where everybody's saying, you guys are idiots. What are you doing?
Right.
Even if Monty McNair is not like the person who made the trade isn't still the one in charge, it would have been good for the Kings to come out on the right side of history of that trade. And I think everything just kind of trickles down from there. Like, I think the overall frustration with Tyrese, and you can throw De'Aaron into that conversation as well, is just, we really can't be a laughingstock around the league, and these moves are just giving people fuel to make you into a laughingstock. And so it's not even necessarily that I think Kings fans love the way Domantas Sabonis play, which they might, but like, I don't think it's more so we love Domantas Sabonis, the person, and he is our guy, he is our champion. I think it's, this is the guy that has to be our champion, because if not, then we just made a move for somebody that could have been leading us to some conference finals and instead is leading his team now to a conference final. So to answer your question, I think it's more of just like we kind of had to have it work out for the perception of the Kings, for the Kings brand. Honestly, it's just a bad look.
Quick follow-up before we go to Brenden. Is Tyrese Haliburton better than De'Aaron Fox
right now? I still don't think so as an individual player. I think it's really tough to argue like with the results. And I told Brenden this yesterday, funny enough, like, I think just because something happens doesn't necessarily mean it's a fact. And again, I think that's some real like hater type mentality, but I think
it is
like, I just, you know, like, yes, you could definitely just throw that back at me all day. Like, Tyrese has led his team to 2 conference finals. What are you talking about? De'Aaron's never made it out of the first round. But I just don't think that necessarily is an all-encapsulating thing that says that proves that Tyrese as an individual basketball player is better than De'Aaron Fox. I just think, you know, and again, you can make it into like the Michael Jordan versus LeBron argument where it's like, well, I'm not saying he's a better individual. I'm saying he elevates the team. Like, there's different conversations you can have, but as an individual player, I still think De'Aaron Fox has more individual skills that I think are at a different level than Tyrese fully admits, like, I can't blow by people. I have to like be herky jerky like Luka and like Brunson. Like, I don't have elite speed. Tyrese isn't elite at anything besides maybe like vision and being like a distributor. Right. I think he kind of, like Sabonis, more maximizes what he's got than I have so much raw natural talent that I'm just, you know, I don't even know what to do with it.
Well, I'm not going to waste my time asking who you think is better, because I already know the answer.
I mean, I think that Chris is on point, and I would say that I think that Tyrese is, to your Braun Jordan argument, I guess, which is hilarious comparing these guys.
They're one and the same.
Yeah. I think Tyrese is a better leader, and De'Aaron is a better player, you know?
Sure.
But it's, I don't know, the better player thing, it's a toss-up to me. I think they're really, really close. The stuff that Tyrese is doing, creating off the dribble, and how good of an isolation player he's become is ridiculous. I never thought that was going to be part of what was going on when he came out of Iowa State, and he's just extremely elevated himself. But to the point of like the Kings aspect of all this, you know, everybody was parading around like, oh, this is a rare win-win trade, you know, and I just think that was a little short-sighted, because obviously the Kings were more for the immediate in that deal when you're trading away a young player that you just drafted. Again, I don't think anybody imagined this was the ceiling for Tyrese, even though that first year and a half he had with the Kings, you started seeing a little bit of it where you're like, hey, there might be more here than people thought. But it's all the moves that were made after the fact. You know, and again, I don't think it's a good trade. I didn't at the time, but they went out and they hit on Andrew Nembhard. They traded for Aaron Nesmith. They traded for Pascal. You know,
they didn't want to come to Sacramento.
No, well, yeah,
he didn't.
I think so. And it's just, you know, it's hitting on all the other moves. They went and traded for Pascal, who fit in perfectly. The Kings went and signed DeMar DeRozan, who did not fit in.
And I'm not going to go back and forth with it, but this is where it ends to me. And this is what I got into it with Kings fans yesterday on social media. I think that is true, but I also think that the roster that Monty McNair and or Vivek created this season in whatever 30 games they got, I think they should have got more time, that they did not play as well as they should have together. That roster was not as bad as how they played.
No.
And I'll go a step further. Earlier this morning, Jason Ross, we were going back and forth saying, I can't say that if De'Aaron Fox was on that Pacers team, they wouldn't be there. Kind of doing the Brock Purdy thing, put somebody else on different rosters. I'm telling you today that De'Aaron Fox on that Pacers team is not going to back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals.
I would agree with that.
So to me, that is my answer to who's better.
I just don't know if that's true.
I don't know that.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
No, I know. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know that it's
100%.
true either.
Yeah.
That's how I'm measuring it in my head.
I think
We'll
he
never
could
know.
have. Yeah. My opinion is I think he could.
Yeah, and if you think he could have,
especially this year. I think he
exactly.
could have,
The
And if-
East is,
East
Well,
is
and-
cake.
and last season,
Dame got hurt.
Yeah, sure.
Tatum.
I'm the first one to
not
say
Tatum,
it.
Yeah.
But I've been swayed.
I think there's an argument both ways, and there's probably a little bit of a stronger one you can make for Tyrese, just given the playoff success that he's managed to have. But talk to me again in 2 years when De'Aaron is. I know he's not the number one on his team, but I mean, there's a world where Pascal almost feels like the number one on some nights for that Indiana team. Not to take away from Tyrese,
and we can put Tyrese on Spurs with Wemby.
and
we can keep doing it.
We can.
We keep
We
doing
definitely
it.
can.
We got time to do it. When we return, guys, I'm kind of in the big swing mode. Hopefully, you're there with me. Allen Stiles, Sactown Sports. Joined by Chris Watkins and Brenden Nunes. And we were talking about Tyrese Haliburton, some of the decisions that were made there. And yeah, guys, real quick, I wanted to ask this question, and I teased it before you got in here. With everything that's been said as far as Domantas Sabonis and the optics, do you think there is a little birdie either in ownership's head, or I don't think Scott Perry, but do you think there's a little birdie hanging around that's saying, yeah, we kind of, not that they've ever really cared about optics, or at least not as of late, but yeah, we kind of can't trade Domantas Sabonis right now because it would just look even worse.
With the Tyrese thing?
Tyrese and then De'Aaron Fox. I mean, you literally have nothing to show for that whole time period. And specifically, Tyrese is in the finals. They don't even have, they lost De'Aaron.
Right.
They traded for the wrong point guard who they don't have. And then they traded Sabonis.
I think it's easy to say, though, that this is a new front office.
Yeah.
That they're coming in here and trying to fix it. And essentially, as fair not that it might be, that you can just blame all of that on Monty, and just hey, Scott came in here, he had a new vision, which obviously is going to come down to whether or not he can pitch that to Vivek and get that past him, because it may be higher than Perry. But I mean, I unfortunately, I guess it does play a factor in some of these things, but I don't think it should.
Right. And some of the conversations that I was having last night after the game, just as far as the lapped, I went back and forth with people. Well, they weren't put in the right position. I think the reality is, Chris, and this is what I was saying. Two things can be true. The Kings did not do things correctly after they traded for Domantas Sabonis, after being team season, right? We can all agree on that. But I'm also not going to sit here and act like Brenden Nunes will hop on the show, and when I say that it's egregious, that off the top of my head, that Ivica Zubac is in the same conversation as Domantas Sabonis, and Brenden Nunes says, "Are you sure about that?" Then I look at the numbers, see what Zubac is doing, and then see him on second team all defense, and see Şengün on a second seed, and see him as an all-star, to not think, you know what? We can all sit here and complain about ownership and the front office who's not here anymore all day long, but Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, we can argue back and forth. They didn't get better. They didn't largely improve either. And other guys in their positions, they did. They did. Zubac, Şengün, when we talk about the Charmander Charizard thing with Jokic, a lot of people would have Şengün over Sabonis now. I don't have to agree with them, but some of this is about you going out there and taking care of business and balling out.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say they hadn't improved as individuals. Like Sabonis I think especially improved. Like he after that Beam Team season, like took it very personally that he couldn't shoot. And now he shot 40% from three. Like I think that's definitely a massive improvement on his game. Like that was probably the biggest wart of his game that people would talk about. And I heard you talk with Chris Biederman yesterday and mentioned correctly, like it's not like he's out here taking step back threes or nothing.
Free throws.
They're long free throws, which I think is absolutely hilarious and very true.
He's got time to line up the seams
every
every time.
It's crazy.
Literally lining up the seams.
It is a long free throw for sure, but he still hit it at 40%, which is better than he was doing before. And like you could argue was a factor in them losing to the Warriors in that series. So I won't say he didn't improve. You could argue De'Aaron Fox never took like we always talk about like, where is he in the tier list? Like, yeah, maybe he went from more middle of second tier to like top of second tier, but he never made like that. You are a first tier, top 15, undeniable player. Yeah. Anything like, obviously the first, when he had 60 points, we weren't saying that, but he definitely, in terms of like, if you're going to, you can point to Sabonis 3-point shooting that improved defensively, it was the thought that Domantas Sabonis couldn't be out there by himself. He clearly like got to a point where at least they could be top 15 and he could be out there. Not saying he's
get cooked
anchoring or anything. Yeah. Absolutely. De'Aaron, it's a little bit tougher to like pinpoint something specifically because he was also, there's an argument that like that Beam Team season is his best season of his career so far. I know maybe the numbers specifically might not say it, but just like his mid-range seemed untouchable that year. Obviously he broke his hand or broke one of his fingers in that Warriors series. We kind of saw that bring its head around earlier this season. Like, I don't know if he ever really fully touched what he was in that Beam Team season, but there's an argument there, but I think it more so has to do with the guys around him. I think to your larger point, both things are true, is that the Kings didn't improve around De'Aaron and Domas enough. But they also got Mike Brown fired. I'm not like, I have said that since the day it happened. Like the players got the coach fired. Yes. That was not on Mike Brown. Mike Brown did not coach them hard enough. He didn't not coach them well enough. He wasn't putting them in bad situations. The players were not playing to their capabilities, to your point. And that's on nobody else except for the players. So we can blame, like you said, we blame ownership all you want for not giving them the right tools. Maybe you can say, hey, whatever. You can go on and on about the debate. But I think the facts are that the players, you're right. Like there was enough talent there and they did not play up to how they should have played.
I think it goes a little beyond De'Aaron and Domas too. Like I think that Kevin Huerter was the way that he slumped and regressed was a huge part of that. Like he was an extreme part of that Beam Team year, the pace that they played with, the spacing, pace, not just half court or not just open court, but in the half court, he's sprinting through everything. And then he just totally lost it to the point where he's getting DNPs. I think that was a huge part of this team.
Did you see his tweet yesterday?
No.
About one thing you can say about the Pacers, that they play hard no matter what.
You didn't like that one? A little triggering.
I wanted to tweet. I know that ain't who I think it is.
I mean, yeah, I think there's that. I think there's Keegan taking a step back as a 3-point shooter as well. Like it's sort of all of the above in my mind, but also you have to put to the Zubac point. Ty Lue was like, hey, we're going to post up Zubac more this year. We're going to change this a little bit. And so you have to put these guys, Houston, they're running things through Şengün. Right. You have to put these guys in situations where you are optimizing and enabling them to continue their growth. And like when De'Aaron took that leap as a 3-point shooter, it's because he's in the lab with Luke Laux, and not only is De'Aaron wanting to get better there, but the coaching staff is pushing it. Right. When Domas improves in the same facet, it's because not only again himself, but also the coaching staff is pushing it. So it's sort of all encompassing. But I do think it's fair that at least somewhat to say that, I mean, if the players were better, then this would look a lot different. Yeah,
it's just a matter of okay, and a lot of people still bring up that 2023-2024 season, which was just bizarre. I mean, could you make an argument? And I'm not saying that they should go to the Western Conference Finals. I know how tough it is. Yeah, maybe you could make an argument if Malik doesn't get hurt, they get that 6th seed. I'm okay with saying that.
They lost 2 less games than the year before.
Yeah, the West is crazy.
Yeah,
the West is crazy. So I'm okay with saying that. It's just there are some people out there that is just their default. Everything is Vivek's fault. Everything is Monty McNair's fault, and that's fine. But again, I would just say at the end of the day, we have to look at these players and say, okay, so where are you putting De'Aaron right now? Where are you putting Domantas Sabonis right now? And I think a good point with the Pacers is that we'll see what happens next year, because this is now they've been doing it for a while, but yeah, they've been hot for a while. And it's hard to see, is this really a thing? Or you never face Dame and Giannis together, and somebody else, every series they're missing somebody. So it's a combination of things. When you go back to back, you're just going to have to respect it a little bit more. When we do return, we will go big fish hunting, because if you're not hunting for a big fish, then why are you on the lake? Allen Stiles, Sactown Sports. Hey.
I almost had one.
Then you needed to. Brenden Nunes, Chris Watkins. Frankie Cardicelli might be back next week, right?
Next week, yeah.
Tuesday.
Okay. Frankie Cardicelli back next week. Anthony behind the glass for us for the rest of this week. Kyle Ledbetter out doing his thing, taking you up to 2 p.m. One more segment with the guys, and I'm not going to get sidetracked this time, guys. Want to get right back into it. The big fish hunting. Essentially, I'm watching the game last night. And these last couple of nights, and we're seeing Shea, we're seeing Ant-Man, or as Skip Bayless calls him, Cant-Man. We're seeing Jalen Brunson. It's a good one. It is a good one.
Solid.
But we're seeing Jalen Brunson and obviously Tyrese Haliburton. Now, Tyrese Haliburton and even Jalen Brunson, we could make arguments, or will they be the dude for the next 5-10 years? I'm not sure. But guys, I sat there, and as much as I don't necessarily want to go after a Ja Morant. I'm not big on Ja Morant. Everybody knows that. And Zion Williamson, I don't know how him and Domantas Sabonis coexist. We just dealt with seeing how fit matters more than talent in some situations. But I'm sitting here thinking, okay, Kings, if you're not going to blow this up, then yeah, go get Trae Young. Bleep it. Just go get Trae Young, because I'm scrolling through our trade candidates, which are doing very well on YouTube, and thank you for your help with those guys getting those up. But I'm just scrolling through, and I'm thinking Jonathan Kuminga, Cole Anthony, Michael Porter Jr., PJ. What are we talking about?
You
right?
know, those are your segments,
right? Because yes,
Great point.
They are.
Great point.
They are, because that's what I do believe will. That's what I do believe will happen.
Give you a hard time.
That's what I do believe will happen, right?
That was great.
These are realistic, and we vary. Sometimes we do the big fish, right? And how I'm feeling today.
James Harden, we remember.
And we all remember.
Yeah,
Carmichael Dave remember. Eating fish and chips right now.
That's right.
It just gets to the point where I'm watching last night thinking, what are we actually doing? PJ Washington and Dennis Schroeder, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why do this?
Cool at all. Yeah.
But why do this? Maybe, yeah. Go, do you think Keegan Murray is going to be a star or not? I don't know. Go get Trae Young. Fine. Zach LaVine, Sabonis, Trae Young. Okay, cool. Why mess around if you're not actually going to compete?
I mean, I think that there's one side where the answer might be because you're desperate to just be a competent franchise. But if we're going to give them a little bit more slack, like, you're trying to get guys that fit the style that you want to play. And you can't, I think your point here, like, they're not going to be a championship team in the next 2 years, barring some ridiculous, Pacers level miracle. But they got love to throw the Pacers thing in there. Chris shaking his head. I think of Denver a little bit. They don't have a Jokic, don't get me wrong, but they got Aaron Gordon in one offseason, and it was like, all right, like, this seems cool, I guess, but does it really do anything for them? And then the next offseason, they go and get KCP. And point being, just, I think it's a slow process.
But
to build
we've been
out your
doing
team.
the Denver thing for 3-4 years.
I definitely agree. I'm just trying to present a logic, not necessarily that it's my logic, but I think right now you got to try to get guys in that fit your identity without handicapping yourself and, risking future assets in order to do that, or totally putting yourself in a corner when it comes to your cap sheet.
Chris.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts on it is more so that I think you should probably get one of these Trae Young, Zion guys, but I think that to me is like their version of tanking. Like, I think and that's assuming Domantas Sabonis is part of those deals. But I kind of feel like Domas to me is like the symbol of what they're trying to do. Like, if he remains on this roster, I just think it's really hard to say you're like, you can't, like you said, you don't have, like, Sabonis is not Jokic. Like, that's the big difference of the two. Honestly, they do really similar things. They kind of control similar parts of the floor, but Jokic just has that right? Like he has the 3-point shooting, he has the natural touch, he has the natural playmaking that just doesn't quite come as natural for Sabonis. Like I think building out towards the Denver thing leads you to more 4 seeds, more 5 seeds. Like I think at this point you need to me, trading for Trae Young or trading for Zion is we are going to lean into more of that timeline, which I guess at this point, like, I don't know what Trae's 26, 20, like it's not even this. It doesn't even really sound as much of a restart as probably what I would want it to be. To me, moving for those guys is we're moving our timeline back a little. Like Sabonis is about to enter 30, I think.
Yes.
So he's really like in the thick of his prime now. So if you're going to keep Sabonis around for these next 3-4 years, to me, that's saying you want to be a certain level of competitive. I think you can be a really bad team and have Trae Young as your best player. Like, to me, like that's being the Charlotte Hornets. Like, granted, the Kings, I think, have, side pieces that are a lot better than what the Hornets have. But to me, in the Western Conference, if Trae Young is your best player, I don't think that even guarantees you like a play-in spot. Like, to me, that is a good move because it symbolizes we aren't trying to win. We just are trying to acquire talent.
To your point, Atlanta just got the number 1 pick with Trae on their team.
100%.
But you're saying Trae would still be on the team with Sabonis or no?
I think there's a world where you could
and they would
potentially
still stink.
I think it's harder to stink in that world. No,
right.
I think if you keep Sabonis, I think I was telling Brendan this the other day. Like Sabonis is a floor raiser. He is not a ceiling raiser, in my opinion. If you have Sabonis, you're going to get, at least 34 wins, 35 wins. Like it's really tough if he's going to play 80 games to lose just because of how hard he plays. And he can cause some mismatches against certain teams. But I think if you have Trae and Sabonis, you'll probably be around where you are this year. Maybe you'll be a little more exciting, but you'll probably be hovering around 40 wins and you're back to where you were. Like to me, if you get rid of Sabonis, but you have Trae Young or you have John Morant, you have Zion Williamson, you have whoever it is that's not Giannis, like to me, you're still going to be a losing team because you have so many young players. You don't really have anyone with experience. And it's a brand new situation. Like I just wouldn't expect anyone to kind of walk in as the team's best player in their first season and completely turn it around.
What if instead of going out and fishing for a big fish, instead you reel in a little guppy, go put it in a tank, and it's going to eventually grow into a big fish.
I don't know that that's how fishing works.
I don't know if this is how this works either, but I'm going with the metaphor to the point of what I kind of funnily enough think the Kings are in the same situation the Pacers were in when they traded Domas. And you're not going to go get a Tyrese necessarily, but I was constantly saying that SGA, the way that OKC got SGA was the outlier. Well, is it another outlier the way that Indiana got Tyrese? Like if you have multiple outliers, this might just be a thing a little bit, but could you go and try and go in a younger direction and try to go get a Reed Shepherd or an Anthony Black if you loved one of these guys and try to mold them into your
Denny Avdia
pick?
I think Jonathan Kuminga is a lesser version of that same thought process.
No,
for sure.
And I like that thought process.
It's like a second draft, I think is what they kind of call it in the league. It's like, you obviously get your first team, but like an Obi Toppin situation where it's like, it just didn't work out with your first team. Maybe you just needed a change of scenery to kind of spark you.
And I like that situation. Domas probably, and this is what I was going to say, right? When you sign up for those situations, okay, let's say you make a move, you get my guy Denny, you get a Reed Shepherd, somebody like that, and you say, hey, you're essentially trying to sell to Domas, hey, no, we really believe in Keegan, and we think he's going to take a step. And in reality, what you're doing, right, when you're working a job, you're essentially quiet quitting. Right. Oh, I'm in the meeting, but my camera's not on. I never say anything. I'm really applying to different jobs and I'm not really doing my job. You're essentially selling to Domas that we're going in the direction of cultivating the young talent. We think we can still get somewhere when in reality, you're preparing for the future. And then Domas after a year or two says, okay, get me out of here.
Or it could be this offseason says, get me out. I mean, like, I think, it's again, like I think if Domas is on your team, you're raising your floor for no reason. So if I'm the Kings, I'm like, we are going in this direction. And I just don't think to me, it's like Domas can want what he wants. Like if I'm the Kings, I need to focus on what to me gets us to the highest apex. And I kind of don't care if he like. It's great if he wants to stay, but maybe that buys us a little time to find a deal. But I kind of don't get like. To me, if I'm the organization, I'm like, we need to make our own decision on Domantas Sabonis.
Here's one before we get you guys out of here. In your heart of hearts, just based on so much stuff that could change, do you truly think that the Kings, when we talk about the different paths, right? Blow up, retool, rebuild, big fish, whatever. Do you think that Scott Perry and Kings ownership, do you think that they have decided a direction yet? Or is Scott Perry maybe trying to say, hey, we don't actually, let's see who's available. We can't really make a decision on where we want to go. Because I started the show saying they need to come out, not that they would actually do this, come out and tell the fans, this is what we want to get out of next season, right? In some capacity. Do you think that as much as it's been reported that they are not going to blow it up, do you actually think that maybe Scott Perry's saying, I don't know what we're going to do yet because we have to see who's available?
I think not blow it up means like, hey, we're not trading everything for draft picks and young guys that are just flyers, but retooling is a form of that. Like,
you think it can look more rebuildy than maybe a lot of people think?
Yes. Like, and I hate the tanking term and I get why it exists, but to me, you could use the same term of like, we're just embracing our youth.
That's what the Wizards owner said. We weren't tanking.
Yeah,
we were developing our youth.
Yeah, listen, there's lines for sure, but there's pros to it. You're going to see guys emerge. Like, is Kenrich Williams or Aaron Wiggins, are they NBA players if they did not get the amount of reps that they did when OKC was like not very great?
Yeah.
And maybe, but there's value in that. And I think that I felt like Scott Perry kind of did tell us a little bit of next year's expectations, reading between the lines a little. Somebody asked him something along the lines of like, hey, are you really just pushing to make the playoffs next year? And he mentioned something along the lines of next year is about building an identity.
Yes.
And
establishing.
That doesn't mean that you have to make the postseason, but you want to know when you play the Kings or when you're watching a Kings game, this is how they're going to play. And yeah, I mean, I roll my eyes because I'm like, hey, kind of had that 2-3 years ago, and then you just decided to blow it all up. So starting the cycle all over again out of their choice. But I think that there's a way that not blowing it up doesn't mean they're not willing to trade top guys for younger talents or anything like that. It just means, hey, we're not intentionally trying to be rubbing shoulders with the Wizards and the Hornets and the Jazz.
Yeah.
Chris? I want them to be as not as bad as possible, but I want them to be as young as possible next year. I really don't have any sentiment for like Domantas Sabonis, DeRozan, Levine. I think it would be really fun if Malik stayed with a group of young guys. I think he could bring the right energy and definitely have like the locker room right. But even him, like, I just think the best court, like, I don't see, like Brendan said earlier, I don't see a championship in the next 2-3 years. Like, to me, you gotta see your championship in 5 years, in 7 years, hopefully in 10. Like, you have to try and find where your window is going to be. And I don't see an immediate window. So I in my eyes, the Kings' best path forward would be pushing for that next window. And I don't think that's what they're going to do. But to me, you have to try and identify some sort of period of, this is where it's like the Niners, right? Like, this is our championship window. We say that it's pretty much the rest of the career of Trent Williams. Like, that is our window. After that, we kind of don't know how it's going to go. Like, I need the Kings to at least say, years 6 through 8 for Keegan Murray, like, we want to be at least in the second round of the playoffs competing. Like, that is our target. If we're not good by then or building towards something by then, we need to like be able to adjust on the way. Like, they have to just have a better goal and something in mind.
And if you embrace that timeline, Keegan, to your point, is the main piece. Like, there's only so many internal growth pieces on this team, and Keegan's one. And guess what? Part of him taking a step back last year was he got less touches.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's the DeMar DeRozan thing. We have Anthony's giving me the Dame Lillard, aka the Tyrese Haliburton. That's Chris Watkins. That's Brenden Nunes. They'll be back next week with Franco Cardo. We'll be right back on Sactown Sports.
The Sactown Sports 1140 newsletter right to your email. Get your